I'd not played a game like Skyrim. And having a physical map to look at was a really nice, really thing to get me into that headspace of being like, well, I can go anywhere I would like. That mountain over there, or that town over there, or I wonder where this path leads.
How do you create a world that is auto-generated, makes sense, and isn't boring, has life in it, has something to go and see? It's all well and good having massive deserts and mountains and forests, but if there's nothing in them, you're going to speed travel your way through them as quickly as possible.
There are rules everywhere and limitations everywhere in life. And to be able to turn something on and then you can go literally anywhere in the city and do anything was fabulous.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. I'm your host for today, I'm Jem, and I'm here with my friends Alex and Matt. So before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gaming the system for some exclusive content, or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address, wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming the System. Today, myself, Alex and Matt are going to be diving into the vast, sprawling and sometimes overwhelming worlds of the open world gaming experience. They've played a huge part in gaming over the years. Are they real? Do they actually exist? Or is it just another marketing spiel? Are they something that we enjoy? Is it something that we look for in a game? Is it something that we avoid in a game? And we also wanted to talk about the inclusion and diversity that is either facilitated or prohibited by these games. So we're going to just cover the whole topic and leave no stone unturned, much like exploring the endless wastes of one of these open world experiences. I suppose we should start with the basic question, which is, what do we view to be a genuinely open world game? And do we think that there might be layers to this? Might there be different ways to be an open world?
I think there can be different ways to be an open world. Growing up, gaming open world wasn't really a thing when I first started gaming. It was all very much linear. There's this level, and then there's a loading screen, and then there's another level, and then there's a loading screen. You had your one story, and that was it. No side quests or anything like that. When open world first became a common genre of game, it denoted the fact that you weren't tied into a main quest. You could decide what you wanted to do when you wanted to do it and choose your own path through the game. And I think now, of course, there's lots of different iterations of that. There's what lots of people kind of call linear open world games, where there is a direction of the main quest, but you can go off and do other bits for a little while. There's more open worlds where there isn't so much of a linear story. You can complete the story in the order that you would like it, or you can shape the story by the actions you take, although that's more of a player choice driven type game than an open world game. It's difficult, really, when we talk about it, I think. I've not sat down and really thought about defining it, which is what's so interesting, because I'm already getting myself muddled with other genres, which is interesting as well, which kind of just shows that I think it's hard to say it's specifically one type of game over another. There's lots of games with open world elements, and linear elements and games with choices that they try to interweave. It's an interesting idea to think about. I'd love to know what Matt's thoughts are on it as well.
It's a big topic. I think my perspective on an open world game and our individual ones, it'll be interesting to come on to what the game companies who make bad open world games think. There are so many terrible open world games and they miss the point of them. For me, an open world game is one where it's a massive map that you can go anywhere from the start of the game. And everything you do along the way is basically in dungeons. And dungeons don't have to be underground. They're towns, cities, fortresses. They're little islands of specifically designed environments dotted throughout the landscape. A semi-open world is one like God of War, where you can go between different large areas, but each of those areas is designed very specifically to be semi-linear. It's a collection of more linear environments. One massive thing for me that makes a good open world game is the feeling like I could go literally anywhere on the map right away. When you walk out the front door and go, okay, tutorial's over. Death Stranding was my latest one of that, because you can build the road system and the monorail system that connects you all the way around Australia and mine materials and then drive them to the thing, build the thing. And then when I'm going through the quest, the main quest, where it has to go across the continent, I can go, oh, I made the monorail to get me from here to there ages ago. And there's something incredibly satisfying about going off into uncharted, dangerous territory, rather than it being sealed off from you for story purposes. It's sealed off by how difficult it is and how difficult the enemies become there. And I also like when it comes to the quest design, there needs to be one massive overarching main quest that can be ignored at your leisure. The best ones, the measurement of that quest allows you to explore the world and mine all the stuff from the world as you go along, so that by the time you reach the end of the main quest, you've experienced the majority of the side quests in the world as well. So that's really good. I'd be interested to see what you two think of what makes a bad open world game. I'm sure we'll get onto that.
Thank you both for that. I think you've both hit on absolutely what is an open world. And apparently the commonly argued first open world was actually Ultima 1 back in 1981, because that had a sort of freedom to explore in the way that you're talking about, Matt. Legend of Zelda was one of the other ones that usually cited as being one of the first open world games, but I think both of those will probably fall into the sort of linear open world game that you were talking about, Alex. And for me, in some ways, I think that open world games are persistent worlds, which again, I think is a whole other genre. And I think that hooks into what you were saying, Alex, about how it crosses all these different areas and it means different things for different people. But to me, the idea of a massively multiplayer online game is that is a sort of persistent world that is completely open. You can go back to places and do things that you were doing when you were really low level, and you can wander into the high level areas and get your ass well and truly handed to you on a plate. So I think that gives me that freedom to step out there and walk around and do almost anything at whatever level I want to do it. And if it's too difficult, it's not going to stop me going there. You can't go into that area yet, you're not this level, or you've finished this section and therefore you can't go back to it, which you have in the more story-driven games. There is also a real skill and talent in making a world that has elements of open worldness, even if it's not 100% open world, but it's also a really good game and a really good gaming experience with the storytelling and the characterizations and all of that we in our little group are really keen on and really enjoy and really look for in our games.
What was the first open world game you remember playing?
That's a good question. I think for me, one of the earliest I remember playing was probably Skyrim. The idea that you get out of wherever it was that you were in the beginning, you come out and you pick whether you're Imperial or the other one. And then you've got the whole map there. Back when we all had physical discs, the lovely Skyrim map was actually inside the case. And you could refer to it like a physical map, which was really cool. At that point, I'd not played a game like Skyrim. And having a physical map to look at was a really nice thing to get me into that headspace of being like, well, I can go anywhere I would like. That mountain over there, or that town over there, or I wonder where this path leads. That gave me that feeling of open world exploration and the freedom to explore without being shoehorned into the story right away. That is my earliest memory of a big open world.
I think for me, the first open world that I experienced was Elephant Mud, which was a text-based multi-user dungeon that I ended up helping to run. I suppose it's a bit weird to call it open world because in some ways it was really restricted, because every single physical space that you went into in the game had been written by somebody and was an actual individual code file. So obviously there was a restriction. You couldn't literally go anywhere. However, we did spend a huge amount of time, the team who ran it, talking about creating a fractal map to create a genuine text-based world that was procedurally generated. And how do you do that? One of the accusations often fired at open world games is that they feel empty and lifeless and a bit samey. And that was one of the things that we used to struggle with when we were trying to come up with a way to do this fractal version of our game. How do you create a world that is auto-generated, makes sense, and isn't boring? Has life in it, has something to go and see. It's all well and good having massive deserts and mountains and forests, but if there's nothing in them, you're going to speed travel your way through them as quickly as possible, or you're not even going to bother with it. So, you want something that actually encourages people to go and explore. For me, I think probably the real first experience I had of that was World of Warcraft, because that was something where you would go, I'm going to go and swim around the coastline, and you just go off and spend days, literally days, swimming around to do the whole thing just to be able to say I did that. You would find funny little things hiding out in the middle of nowhere. There was definitely an experience of exploring, and I might be rewarded for exploring, which is, I think, one of the real benefits of open world games. Do you think that they're getting more popular? It wasn't a phrase that was common even amongst the gaming community, this idea. So is it something that we're seeing more now? Is it something that we're seeing touted as a good thing? Is it something that people are using to sell their games?
It's a popular genre, but I think it's grown in line with the industry as a whole. As gaming has grown exponentially, the amount of games that provide open worlds has grown. You've got the well-known franchises that contain open worlds, like the Bloodborne games, essentially, Elden Ring, and you've got the Fallout games, obviously games like Skyrim and Oblivion. So there's like these huge franchises with what we would call our go anywhere from the get-go kind of open worlds. Then there's the more linear open worlds, which I think are a big staple of games these days. They have a lot of open world elements where they're trying to pack in not just a linear story, so you have lots of exploration and you can choose when to do X quest and Y quest. But there's also a more focused story in them. More popular games over the last decade have tried to incorporate a lot of open world elements. The trend is moving a bit more. I don't know if it's because of our gaming habits and us getting older and having less time, but I feel like people are moving away from larger games, which perhaps is what prompted the idea of this topic. We've talked about the move towards more indie, smaller, so bite-sized games you can finish in under 10 hours, becoming slightly more popular now as well. So I don't know whether that answers your question, Jem, but I think generally it's kind of had a sort of upward curve as gaming has grown, so have open worlds. Because the technology is there to support them more as games have evolved over time.
It's interesting that you split this part about player appeal into two parts. When I first read a skim and go, why do I play open world games? I play mostly long games. I'll come on to more of that in a bit. But the first question being phrased as why are they so popular in general? I really don't know. Because the one true thing that is true of all open world games is that they take a very long time to play. If you said to someone, right, you can either play one game for 100 hours or you can play 4 games for 25 hours each, when it comes down to just a question of time and someone thinks, oh, I'll play something shorter. And I just know that there are so many good open world games and they're really popular, but I can only come at it from my own perspective of what I like about them. I have no idea if those things are true. If they weren't popular, game companies wouldn't invest in making them. But then it's also a big swing for a gaming company to go, right, we're going to spend, rather than trying to make the next fortnight a shorter game, we're going to invest a lot of time and resources in a massive game on the off chance that it'll be really successful. So it's a bit of a mystery to me why this particular format is so popular.
Yeah, and I think it's a mystery for other people, actually, because if you look into what's actually going on, you get a mixed picture as to whether they are becoming more popular or whether they are actually declining. So just to throw some statistics at you, they are valuing the global open world games market at $27 billion in 2024, and it's projected to nearly double by 2033. It is a massive market. Other research I did said it's peaked and now it's heading back down. But whatever way you cut it, they obviously are worth a lot of money. I think people want to play them because it's an immersive experience. It's a way to go into something and properly lose yourself in a world that feels genuine and safe to explore. Perhaps we can answer this question by exploring some of the reasons why we think they might be popular with players. And then maybe we can find out why they might not be popular with players. You mentioned time, Matt, and I think that influenced my interest in this topic. Recently, I was looking for a new game to play, and I was deliberately looking for a game that was time limited because I wanted a chance of finishing. I find that open world games are daunting, but the flip side of that argument is that if it's a good game and you enjoy playing it, then you don't want it to come to an end. We're not in a race to see how many games we can complete or how many games we can tick off. It's actually about something I enjoy doing. And if that's the same game for a very long time. Is there a problem with that? Does it always have to be new, different? Why do you think people choose the games, and why do you think they might not choose these kind of games?
Grand Theft Auto, that was one of the earliest ones that I played. I remember I was very young, probably like 12, whenever the PSP came out. And the sense of freedom in it was fantastic, because everywhere there are rules everywhere and limitations everywhere in the world and in life. And to be able to turn something on and go anywhere in the city and do anything was fabulous. That sense of freedom, and yeah, I definitely agree about the immersiveness. You can immerse yourself in an open world game, a good open world game, in a way that you just can't for shorter games.
Yeah, I'd agree. Big things that appeals to me as a person that enjoys playing open world games is that the world is a character itself. When it's a good open world game, you immediately get the sense of a very stylized atmosphere. It's designed to make you feel a certain way. For example, I'll probably come on to this in a minute, but I've just started playing Ghost of Tsushima, quite late to the game, but very, very much enjoying it. Doing it in small chunks, as I know it's relatively large. I know it is also very, very linear in terms of when we compare it to, say, Ring or something like that. But it's also very cinematic. There's a lot of dialogue in the missions and by the characters themselves talking about the island of Tsushima. And the island has its own atmosphere. It is separate from Japan at the time. A sort of lore unto itself. There's lots of myth and legend and all sorts going on there. Obviously, it's the Mongol invasion. So there's lots of danger, and the world feels like it can be a very dangerous place sometimes. I certainly got that sense when playing games like Shadow of War and the first one, which I think was just Shadow of Mordor, wasn't it? I absolutely love how threatening the world of Mordor feels and the surrounding places. So you're just constantly under attack all the time, which is again similar sorts of themes within the Soulsborne games. You're constantly in danger of being killed immediately. Well, part of it is what makes it exciting. Part of it is what makes it terrifying to play as well. But that depends what you're looking for in a game.
And it's also confusing that if you've got a first-person shooter, they're basically all the same. You have a corridor, you fight your way down the corridor, it ends, repeat that until you finish the campaign. But with open world games, there are so many different types, genre-wise.
So I'd completely forgotten about GTA when you mentioned it, Matt. It's like you said, of course GTA is open world, but because it's not like the very popularized, stereotypical open world that everyone associates, like a fantasy setting, you kind of forget. Of course it is, in its framework and the way that you play. It definitely is open world. It's funny when you think about it like that.
Because it makes it even harder to categorize why people play it. Because someone who plays, say, Grand Theft Auto versus someone who plays Elden Ring. I played it for 250 hours my first time playing it on PlayStation and had no idea whatsoever what was happening. I had no idea what was happening in the world, why I was there, how I was there, who all these people were that I was killing. I just go, oh, this place looks awesome. Gameplay's fun. I get the Elden Ring, become Elden Lord. I played it like 9 times through with the New Game Plus thing. And that just completely discounts the thinking that a massive narrative and main quest is so important and characters are important, because every character basically says 3 lines each.
Yeah.
And then there are games where the gameplay is rubbish, but the story's really good.
Yeah.
You know, so there's quite a long list of good games in an open world setting. And I think you're right that the idea that it has to be a fantasy genre is intriguing, actually, that we feel like that. I think that's because those stories tend to have more epic settings. Matt, so in Elden Ring, why do you think people play that if it doesn't have much characterization or story? Then what is it that encourages people to play?
It's just a stunningly made world. One of those things that it's just awesome to walk through. The challenge is incredibly compelling because the first thing that happens when you get out of the dungeon, well, you get killed immediately by this weird spider thing. And then you wake up and you step out into the stunning first area Limgrave, this awesome, beautiful, melancholic environment. And then you see a mounted warrior that is 4 times your height and has an axe whose circumference is the same as you, and then you get absolutely smashed into the ground with it. But then you go, oh, I'll be back for you later. And I think a really important part of a game like that is that there's always something unbelievably cool on the horizon that you can see from wherever you are. You can see the Erd Tree, you can see Stormvale Castle, you can see these towers, you see the skeletons of massive giants on the landscape. And it just makes you go, oh, what's that over there? And I want to go all the way to it.
Which is exactly how you want an open world environment to be. You want it to draw you on to the next thing. I just want to see what's around that corner. I just want to see what's over that hill. I just want to find out what these people are asking for. You know, and I think that's what you want. And that's the sort of environment where you can really get sucked into and feel like you are actually existing in some level within that space. The flip side of that is the amount of time that you have to sink into these kind of games to do all of that, to explore all of that. I'm a completionist. I'm not obsessively completionist, but I do like to have looked down all the little side routes and to have done most of the side quests. I find open worlds appealing because I want that escapism and to feel that I'm in a living, breathing world. But I also find it really, really overwhelming because it just feels there's no way that I'm going to have the time to invest in this or to do all those things. And then when you get into the grind of games, and obviously the design of a game could possibly deal with this, but it seems at the moment that most games that have this kind of setting will have an element of grind in the middle where you're having to work your way up to being able to take on that really big boss or to find the solution to this problem. And there's a lot of having to kind of go back and do the same things repeatedly. And that's obviously, on one hand, a way of getting you to explore the world and do the things that the world can offer you. But it's also can be very time consuming. It can be a little bit tedious. And if you've got hours and hours and you can spend 3 hours doing this, that's fine. But if you actually only have 1 hour a day to game, then grinding for 3 days in a row can sometimes feel a bit disheartening. They feel like they're not accessible to me. I think some of that's a problem with the way that I approach it. It's not all about completing the game, and maybe I need to step back and recognize that in these big games, they're not designed for you to do everything. They're designed for you to take the route that you want. Like Baldur's Gate is a great example of that because it has so many different ways that the game can go. You just can't do them all in one playthrough. So you have to accept that there will be things that you won't see in your playthrough, and decide whether or not you want to do a second, third, fourth, fifth, 100th playthrough to do all those things. But you can still complete the game without seeing everything, and that's okay. That's the way the game has been designed. So is it just about having a attitude shift, or are these games exclusive rather than inclusive when it comes to that sort of thing?
I think for me it depends on the game. I was going to give you kind of two examples of an open world game that I have experienced major overwhelm on and subsequently stopped playing. Unfortunately, Horizon Forbidden West. I'm afraid, stuck in the first area because I like a tidy map. And there's a lot of icons on the map. If I can't do them all without feeling like it's going to take tens of hours, then I got to the point where I was like, well, this mission says to go so many meters into the fog of war and I haven't even tidied up this first areas. And I was getting really frustrated at the idea of a mission that sent me ages away, knowing that on the way I would probably have to tidy up everything around me, and that would add another 10, 15 hours to actually reaching the start of that mission. And it became really overwhelming. I found with that game, every person I spoke to would give me a quest, and I like to tick off the list. Some of the quests I was being given could not be completed very quickly. I think maybe it was just my particular mood at the time I was playing it, but I was just not on board with helping Ainley reach her goals, reach her quest markers, etc. I very much enjoyed being in the world, and it felt like a very dangerous world, and I think part of the issue also was how powerful do you feel at the start of the game. An opposite experience that I'm having at the moment is with Ghost of Tsushima, where right from the start of the game, you feel properly powerful and capable and a really impressive samurai warrior who can take on anyone and come out on top, even if maybe you have a struggle in certain encounters or with certain numbers of Mongols and things. But the way that Jin moves and the way that you can get him to wield his weapons and stuff, it just makes you feel ultra powerful right from the beginning. That emboldens me to go and explore more because I'm like, well, nothing's going to stop me now. I'm not going to face any barriers here. And I think the way the fog of war unfolds is quite similar to Horizon Forbidden West. But the amount of stuff to do is a lot less. So it's a lot less overwhelming. There are sort of mini games inside activities and things, but they're not like the level of things that a lot of games are doing these days, influenced by Gwent from The Witcher, the card game that has become...
Yes. Pointless.
Mhm.
Gwent is awesome.
Yes.
The Thronebreaker is awesome, but there are so many pointless mini games that they're hoping will be the next big thing.
Yes, so that was part of what diverted my attention, wanting to get good at this mini game and getting frustrated that I couldn't work out how to play it. I got stuck trying to figure it out and going between the different versions of that and thinking, well, I'm never going to complete this game now if I can't even do this mini game. And that threw up a big barrier for me. As far as I understand it, there's nothing like that in Ghost of Tsushima. There might be in Ghost of Yotei, which is a sequel, but it looks quite a fun one. It looks slightly more manageable, perhaps. I don't know, and less strategic, but again, that's for future me to find out. But yeah, I'm having a completely opposite experience with Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm able to take it in small chunks and feel like even if you play for 15 minutes and do a side quest, it's a very rewarding gameplay loop. I'm maybe 20 to 30 hours in, and even if I play for half an hour, I've got what I need out of that half hour. I've got a bit of combat, a bit of exploration. I've stroked a fox. I feel good. You know, life is good. Those are my two sort of differing experiences there.
Okay, well, I think that's a great note to pause this conversation on. We have really only just scratched the surface of all that open world games have to offer. So we will definitely be back with part 2 next week. For now, thank you for listening. Please let us know what you think about open worlds and any of the other topics that we talk about on the podcast. And we will see you very soon. Bye.